but I think it really starts with getting in the right frame of mind. I think that mindset is everything. And if you don't have the right mindset, a lot of things will not come to you after that. So doing some more mindfulness thinking, getting and sometimes that means a psychologist, right? Or a therapist or someone that you can connect with to share things with that's going to be on your level.
Hello, I'm Kathy Chester, and this is Move It or Lose It, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, spirit, and soul.
Hello, today we are doing another podcast on our Move It or Lose It. And I have a good friend that we have met recently and really excited to do this one with a fellow podcaster and a fellow MS warrior. So Edie Sohigian, is that right?
Yes,
right.
Perfect.
I want you to tell me first, as we get to go along with this podcast together, kind of going through, I posted our big topic is balance. Because we know that through COVID and through all of this, if we weren't unbalanced before, we are certainly unbalanced now. So Edie, go ahead and introduce like what you've done, your podcast.
Okay. Thanks for having me. First off,
Absolutely.
It's super exciting to be here on your Move It or Lose It podcast. My podcast is called Thriving Over Surviving. I believe this week we're opening up with our 4th episode, so it's pretty new. And we really just talk to autoimmune warriors about their struggles and about their triumphs and how they try to build their best life, if I can spit that out correctly. Just living our best lives. And it looks so different for everybody. But by the time I'm finished talking to each person, it is clear that they are thrivers for sure. It is so interesting, this journey that I've been on, meeting so many people in the MS.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but Edie, when were you diagnosed?
Oh, I was diagnosed in 2015, but I believe I've had MS since 2007 at least.
Okay.
So there was a period
of typical.
Yeah. There's a big period of time where I had very extreme fatigue. I've had random bouts of tingling and some other things here and there, memory loss and brain fog for sure. Mostly brought on by stress in my life. I was just workaholic, crazy town workaholic. And so in 2015, I went numb from my neck to my toes. And within 6 weeks, I was done with that. I was like, I cannot see another neurologist or make another appointment. I need to know what's wrong. So I checked myself into the hospital, and a really great looking guy. I tell this part every time because it's the best part of the story.
Yeah, I remember this one. I was like, I didn't have any good looking men in my diagnosis time at all.
You missed out. Celebration Health in Orlando, Florida. In the
I'm going.
room. Come on over. He was like, how you doing? I'm like, I'm numb. He's like, we'll do some tests. I said, I have a lesion on my brain they found. He's like, oh. So, it just progressed from there. I was there for 7 days and they did all the tests and all of this and that, got the steroids, and off I went. So
was it the IV steroids, I assume?
Yes. That's a funny story too. The nurse comes in, and I've heard this from other people. She looked at the IV bag and she's like, I think this is wrong. The orders are wrong. I've never administered this many steroids before. And so she went and talked to the doctor and came back and she goes, oh, it's right. So I was a little freaked out. I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't ask a lot of questions. I just really trusted the doctors.
Right. Sure.
Which I don't know if that was a good choice or not, but I did.
I think most of us did, especially if we were diagnosed much earlier. You didn't, and your age too. When you're diagnosed, typically we're diagnosed younger. So it's like out of respect, it's like, of course I'll do this. You are the doctor, you know this. And go ahead. So years
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. So this time later, I've had three relapses. And so I started after that. I just didn't stop. I kept doing everything that I was already doing. Right.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't good for me. Such a connection between your stress level and how your body's functioning from head to
Absolutely.
toe. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I just was over it. So I completely changed my diet. I don't want to say that I have kept to it, but for 3 months, no sugar, no anything. I cut everything out. So that's not balance either for me anyway. But for those 3 months, I cut everything out. I lost a bunch of weight, not on purpose, because I was just trying to feel healthy.
Right.
And I took my most recent DMT, which was Lemtrada. And I haven't had, to my knowledge, a relapse since. I'm probably due for my MRI pretty soon.
Okay.
Because I get one each year, usually in August. So they'll probably be contacting me for that pretty soon. And we'll see how it goes. But so far, so good.
Good.
Yeah. And I've been eating a lot healthier. I had gotten pretty much back to where I was because I went so extreme, then my balance was off. Right. So now the dream is to follow the Walls protocol, of course. Right. And I have some chicken liver in my freezer and I'm afraid to try it. That kind of
stuff. I know.
I
just interviewed Matthew Embry. So I was like, check. Am I following this? And so, yeah, it was stressful. I'm like, have I had sugar? Like, what sugar did I have? And so it is. I mean, I think that, and I think it was on your podcast I listened to and several others, when there are so many different diets for us, right? And balance for sure is finding your balance when they've got the Mediterranean and the walls and there's so many things that we can choose from. And it's like, okay, no sugar, no gluten, no. And then other people, you'll get to a neurologist and they'll say, there is no diet for MS. There's the food you eat doesn't matter. Now we know that's ridiculous, but we know that the food absolutely matters. And we can tell by what we eat and how we feel. So I always tell, like you do, Edie, I'm not a doctor. I can tell you what I've learned through 20 something years of this. And I've learned that what I put in very much affects my day, how I feel, how I sleep. So if I'm putting greasy, sugary stuff in, I'm going to feel that for days. So it's a choice that you're going to make. Do you want to live? And, we're already depleted with our autoimmune disease in our vitamins. And you'll notice that a patient that has an autoimmune disease, once they start on, like I've been taking Previnex for the last over a year, and my body just soaked it up because it was in such need of some good, just everything, the most optimal everything. So the brain health, the joint, it was just, my body was just like, yes. And so I think, unfortunately, I'm going to shut this because I'm starting to look like I'm glowing. I think that it can be very confusing for the autoimmune world when there are so many, what is the balance? And then it kind of makes you feel guilty if you mess up and you have a bad day. So now that you've learned you've interviewed some people that I've listened to some of the podcasts that you have, the one that you had, can't remember her name, but she was a lot on doing diet and health. So when you hear that, for you, where do you feel the balance would be?
Right. So that was Eve, I believe. She changed countries to get out of her lifestyle that she was dealing with there. Pure air, pure water, like very, to me, extreme diet change. She was saying this morning that she ate some crackers and her whole body's off. Right. So but she's living her best life, no doubt. Right. And she's happy in it.
Right.
And she's an overachiever, and she does some what is that called when you do improv. So she keeps it happy. She's in a relationship, she's got her dog and everything. It works for her.
Right.
But for me, I've had an eating disorder since I was a little kid. Binge eating for sure, mostly due to stress, different things in my life, right? Everybody's got their own stressors and triggers.
Yes.
So for me,
would you say that you would be, again, I keep interrupting you, but you say something, I'm like, wait, would you say for you, because I know throughout this process, I'm shining again. So this is just going off. I know for me during COVID, my stress, I can't get anything in. So I'll go to eat something, it won't go in. It feels like it's going to come back out. So that's how my stress is. So as I kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, she's dying. I think it's really important. Like you said, we handle the difference. So with stress, sometimes we eat our emotions, eat the fear, and sometimes we starve it, like I tend to do, which isn't healthy either way. I mean, either way you put it, it's just not a healthy way to live. It's not balanced at all.
Right. When I was first diagnosed, I did ask the doctor, I'm like, am I supposed to be following any kind of health regimen in terms of diet and exercise? Because my friend was there and she was looking up all of these things and giving me resources and stuff I had never even heard of. And they sent a nutritionist up to the room to talk to me. And basically she told me about the 4 food groups and that they had some, what do you call that? Water aerobics classes that I could take. And I just thought, oh, that is for geriatric people. And it's not, right? But that was the stigma I had in my brain. And I had things going through my brain, right? Like, I'm going to be a chubby person in a wheelchair.
Right.
I'm not going to be able to walk pretty soon. All of that stuff was going in there.
Right.
And I just ignored it. And that is not balance. Ignoring it is not balance. So I had to take it upon myself to figure out what that was. So like I said, I went really extreme. Then I went the other side, and now I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. So I noticed that if I have more than 2 drinks, it's a bad day for me the next day.
Yeah.
It's like I am so hungover.
Yeah.
So I've limited my alcohol intake tremendously. And I still really like it. It's part of me, my family, we have a glass of wine at dinner.
Right.
I like a martini. I do. And I know that there's sugar in all of those things.
Now, when you said that, you just like spoke my best friend's language. So she's already hearing this saying, I love this girl. We are definitely getting her here to Michigan and we're having drinks because martinis are her favorite. So.
Oh yeah, I love it. And I try not to do the blue cheese stuffed olives, but I love that as well. If I'm having one, but I do feel it the next day. I really do.
Absolutely.
And I didn't realize how it was affecting me until I went the other side and now reintroducing it. Right.
Right.
So the alcohol, I think, has been a big change for me. Not that I was an everyday drinker to that level, but I did partake on the weekend for sure. Monday night's a stressful night. I would have some wine. So I've cut that back a lot. But what has been a big thing for me is portion control.
Yes.
So just in the sense of being overweight, being a binge eater, and all of those components too added into, I know in my brain, I'm a smart person. I know what's going on. I know what I'm supposed to do, but it's like the angel and devil on your shoulders, right?
Yes.
So I'm using my physical feelings to kind of gear what that looks like. So now I'm at a point where I can tell when I'm overeating and I stop. Last night,
now, do you write it down? Do you blog it? Like if you I ate this, now I feel like this.
I don't, but that's a really good idea. I
tell my clients to do that. Like just write down how it made you feel so we can go from there. Especially if I'm having them alleviate stuff out of their diet. Like let's say I've got a client and I want them to go dairy free. I'll typically just say, let's just start there. And then let's not do everything all at once. Let's not do no gluten, no dairy, no nothing. Because I can't tell then what's upsetting your body. So let's take dairy out for a while, a couple months, and see what that feels like. And then we can start introducing a couple of the things back in and see if that, how that feels as you are introducing them.
It's
So
a great idea.
Yeah.
When I do my best, I'm writing everything down that I eat every day. And the only other step to that is writing down and journaling at the end of the day how I felt, or even the next morning.
Yes.
So great tip.
Yeah. But I mean, you're so far, along with this, the idea that you were diagnosed in 2015. And I think that there's a difference. I think when we were diagnosed back in the day, like in the late 90s, you got so frustrated because it was like, here's your sticker, your handicap sticker, here's your glossy pamphlet, and you're gonna, not walk, you'll be dead in this many years. And it was like, so we didn't have Instagram, and we didn't have an ability to connect like we do now, which has been awesome, especially for our newly diagnosed patients that are just as terrified as you were that first day. And I was, when it's like, I'm sorry, what is that? And then you do the big bad Google search that you're not supposed to do. And then it's like, oh, I am dying. I'm dying. I could die tomorrow. So it terrifies you into thinking that there's no hope. And so I know for me, I can go the other way. I can get very unbalanced, that I want to do everything. So I want to run marathons and keep going in the beginning to show I'm not that sick. I will be strong. And that wasn't balanced, just like you. It was, I'm going to push so hard that I'm going to just fight this. I'm going to take this disease down by my activities. I'm just going to run it out. So we can go unbalanced both ways. I feel that new patients, even patients today that have had it, they get very depressed. I think COVID was a very big shock and change for a lot of our autoimmune clients and patients that really didn't know where the balance was. They were already feeling isolated, and then feeling more isolated with this. I think for now, when everything is opening back up, I would say there's a lot of fear and a lot of unbalance with this. What do you see on your end?
So yeah, and I'm in education, right? And so we're talking about little kids getting sick and teachers getting exposed and all of those things. It is very stressful. We talk a lot at work about social emotional connections to learning. And it's that B word, the balance, right?
Yeah.
Because we need to have a sense of urgency to move forward with student achievement. But at the same time, I need to make sure my kids are in a level head, and it starts with the adults, right? So anybody that doesn't even have an autoimmune disorder, they're dealing with all of this. So let's add that on to it. Yes. And yeah, super stressful. And that stress really, it weighs on you. And it can look and manifest in very different ways. For example, the COVID piece, not being able to socialize, being isolated, that's a stressor too, right? In my case, I was overworking and working a tremendous amount of hours. I couldn't take 5 minutes in the day to eat lunch or to think about myself. There was no such thing as a doctor's appointment unless it was scheduled a year in advance, and half the time I was postponing them. So I wasn't putting myself first. And I think that in order to get the balance, I got to think, what are my needs? And I need to have a list of what those needs are. And if those aren't met, I'm not going to be able to really do a good job anywhere else.
Right. I think that's perfectly said, Edie, because I think oftentimes we got to get all of this done. And so there's we don't take care of our needs. And I just had this conversation with a friend and my husband about, I never felt that I could have the boldness to assert what I felt I needed. I didn't feel like there was anyone there that would listen or knew. It's still quite a challenge to find someone, let's say you're seeing a urologist or you need to go to a dentist that may not understand that you've had years and years of steroids in your body and how that's affected your mouth and your teeth and things like that. So I believe that it's just been the last few years that we've been able to say, no, it's not okay that I'm just going to see a regular psychologist or doctor or dentist. I need to see someone who actually understands what I'm going through so that they're not just giving me something that my body really can't handle. And I would say that with everything, in balance, our word today, when it comes to, and I know we talked about this before, my whole thing obviously is movement and disrupting that, right? And after COVID, disrupting the idea that you're going to move the way you did before, whether you have an autoimmune disease or you don't. Our bodies have been through hell. And so we really have to be gentle and start off in a slower pace. And so I see a lot of people going bonkers with a workout, trying to do what they did to get back to the body they want. And I'm thinking, no, like it's too much. And so balance on that end. We now have the go ahead for the last over a year now through the MS Society that exercise is an important part of our life. For some of us that have had the diagnosis for years, we're like, thanks for catching up to us. We've been doing this since day one. So how do you feel about the movement and the fear and balance as far as that goes with our MSers?
So it's funny that you say fear, because I allowed the fear at the beginning as an excuse. Okay. So I'm afraid to get too hot because I'm going to have a flare. So I'm just not going to do anything. And I can say, well, I have a heat intolerance, so I'm just not going to make that happen. So I did that for a long time and it didn't work. It did not work for me. I wasn't only the MS, it was just everything. It was impacting my whole function. So then I went to the extreme, right? So I was walking 3 5Ks a week and getting out there, which is good, but it was like the exact opposite of what I was doing. And I couldn't keep it up. It was an unrealistic life situation for me. So I now walk a mile 3 or 4 times a week. And I walk the dog a few times, which the dog has been a great sense of balance also.
Yes,
a great COVID dog. Too. Yeah, it's great, right?
We talked about that, yes. It's been a very peaceful. Yeah. Don't know how that, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, if I'd be getting a puppy, I'd say, oh, absolutely not. But this has been a very way to take stress away. And she will eventually actually be a service dog for me. So
absolutely.
She will.
I love that.
Yeah. And I didn't even know that for MS and other autoimmune diseases that they could, doesn't have to be so extreme, but they can sense, it's a golden retriever. So she can sense when I'll have a seizure. That's been something new with my stuff. When I have something like that, so she can go get daddy and say, mom's in trouble, go help. So I would say that I think taking a step back, I'm with you. And when COVID happened, it wasn't a slowdown for me. I felt like if I heard one more person say I'm bored, I was like, because it was for us like revamping everything and pivoting and moving the gym to, virtual and then live and then on Zoom. And it was just, and then now we go to the park. Now we can't. Now everybody's in. Now you're masked. And so it was a crazy time of trying to keep your business going, figure out what you want to do in the business, if that business is even going to be around when this is over. So I feel like definitely the fear and the balance go hand in hand, because we do. I think I hear the word fear from my clients so often the fear of the unknown, the fear of going out, the fear of the vaccinations, everything. So I definitely see, for me, balance for our autoimmune clients is the numbers going back up, and then them feeling like, when is it safe for me to actually be out? What would you say the most for your people that you've interviewed or talked to with autoimmune stuff that they fear the most?
Gee whiz. I would probably say just progression of their disease in general. We haven't completely discussed COVID too much. These are, strong warriors I'm talking to.
Right.
And we focus primarily on all positive stuff, and it hasn't really come up too much, but I recognize it in myself, and I make sure that I talk to the community about it from my perspective, because it is a reality that we're facing.
Right.
And
right.
so one thing that I did to try and block that fear is I shut off my cable television, and I no longer watch the news. If I need
Love
news,
that.
I seek it out.
Yes.
Because that was about, 5 years ago, I think,
Okay.
when I shut that off. And it was
Really?
one of the best decisions I've ever made.
That's
I just
awesome.
was sick of everybody bickering and the
Yes.
fighting, and I want peace and love, and I need that in my life. I don't need that stress. And it
Right.
really knocked a lot of that out. Like, we've had a couple of hurricanes here, and my father's like, Edie, you should really know when that's happening. I'm like, somebody tells me about
Right.
3 days before, and I have plenty of time to prepare, and I
Right.
hear it, and I look up education news. I get an email 3 times a week about education
Right.
news, so I stay in the know. But other than that, I try to really stay out of it,
I think
because I
that's
don't
very
need
smart.
it. I just don't
No.
need it in my life. So
I think any of us who deal with anxiety, and through the last year, I don't know who doesn't have a counselor and who doesn't have anxiety. But I think watching the news, I'm with you. I've taken myself out of that. And any prompts that will come on my phone that, like, that will terrify you. Like, the world's gone to hell, we're all dying. And it's like, no, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to see that on my phone. I think a lot of it is really doing things proactively. Like, we have the ability to turn that off. It's making that decision to take some of the anxiety and the stress out. Really taking a look at ourselves and saying, what is causing the most stress for me? What is really making my anxiety go up? What's making me want to go in the kitchen and grab food I know I'm not supposed to have, but now my nerves are up here? What are those things? And really knowing yourself and getting to know yourself and finding that balance. For so many of us, we don't even know the first step in finding balance. So now I'm gonna ask you another question, Edie. In your mind, what would you give advice? What would be the first step for you that you would say in finding balance?
So I like the thought of, doing the elimination a little bit at a time. But I think it really starts with getting in the right frame of mind. I think that mindset is everything. And if you don't have the right mindset, a lot of things will not come to you after that.
Yeah.
So doing some more mindfulness thinking,
Mhm.
getting and sometimes that means a psychologist, right? Or a therapist, or someone that you can connect with to share things with, that's going to be on your level. I have a specific friend that has MS that I speak with about my concerns, my fears, my anxieties, things like that. And she calms me down. She levels me out a bit, right? So it's good to make those connections with the community as well. So mindfulness, community connections, because those people can dull your fears a lot. And but making sure that you're connected with the right ones. Like, there's some people online that really make me laugh, but sometimes I have to scroll down because it's kind of negative, right? And I need to keep myself in a positive mind frame, because if I don't, it's over. So that's hence the reason thriving over surviving. And yes, definitely starts with the way you're thinking about yourself.
Right.
I've had to do a lot of self-reflection, and there's been some trauma. So learning to love myself and appreciate myself for who I am, and not saying you don't deserve things, because I did that all the time. Really
Yeah.
negative self-talk. And
Right.
that didn't get me anywhere. It got me to MS, quite
Yeah.
frankly, in my opinion.
Yes, I
But
agree.
yeah. So I also short-term wins. That's a really big one
Yes.
too. When you see that you're making progress in certain areas.
Mhm.
So every time I podcast, I put this ring on,
Uh-huh.
because 70 pounds ago, this ring did not fit me.
Oh, I love that.
And so it just reminds me of how far that I've come, and that I
Yeah.
don't want to go back to that place. And like I said, it's not really about the weight, it's how I feel. And when I
Right.
put this on, I feel great.
Yes,
Right.
I love that.
So mindset, community, and
Yes.
short-term wins. That's what I would
Yeah,
say.
I love the short-term wins, short-term goals, short-term wins, because it really, I think when we look too far in the future, it's very exhausting. And we feel like we get started, but then it's like, I need a break and I don't know. And so we often will give up on that dream, or give up. We put not a short-term goal, but we've set a long-term goal. And then it becomes a fear that, well, what if I can't? What if I have a relapse? What if there's so many things in our autoimmune stuff that can happen, that a long-term goal can sometimes be a little bit too terrifying and too much to take on.
It can be really daunting, because
Mhm.
and that is not what I want. I want to feel good. At the end of the day, I want to feel good. I want to wake up having slept a full night's sleep, feeling refreshed, and wake up. So what did I have to do to get there? Well, a couple little things. And once I start feeling those things happen in my body, I need to
Right,
remember, like you said, write those things down that I changed. It's a great
right,
idea.
right.
And keep doing those things so that I continue to feel good, but I
Yeah.
need to feel successful at it. And so recognizing those successes
Right.
is really
I
important.
love that too. Take time, definitely take time to enjoy the success that you have, because we often kind of go over that. We remember everything negative. I can remember anything I ever did negative as a mom and put that over my head, and just, oh, what, I failed at that. I did this wrong. I did this wrong. I can hold on to that forever. But the goals that I achieve are quickly forgotten by myself. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about fear earlier, and now
mhm,
you're bringing up shame,
yeah,
right? And shame gets us to a really, really dark place. And we need to learn, especially as women and moms like you are,
yes,
that we need to think positive things about ourselves,
right,
right? I need to feel like, okay, I did this better, or the next
right,
time I improved, and to stop putting myself in a place where I don't deserve good things. And
100%.
that's what shame, I feel like, does to
Yeah,
us. And it's
yes,
not a good place where I don't want to be in that place. No, thank
no.
you.
And
Mm-mm.
it's a very toxic place for anyone, but especially if you're having, issues in the autoimmune world. That's the worst thing for our body, is to not only take on and fight back the disease in itself, but then to allow shame, negative thinking, all those things to come in on top of it. Well, then we really don't give ourselves a chance at all, because we've already kind of put ourselves in this bad place where now we're not even having any positive thoughts. It's all doom and gloom. And you can tell, I know when I get to those people and I think they're not ready for me, because I want them better more than they want to be better. And so it breaks my heart to let, obviously, that I train a lot of the autoimmune clients for movement. And so when that happens and I'm fighting that I want this more than you do, it becomes something, I have to let go, balance, letting go, and knowing I can't pull them through. But it's a difficult thing when you see it and you're empathetic at all, and you see our autoimmune world going unbalanced and not getting checks and not seeing, and that's not even that's up to the patient. I don't judge whether they're with a neurologist or a DMT, whatever they're doing. I feel like that's got to be your own choice in this. And what you decide is, I could not even fathom judging that, because there's so many different things that I've learned through the years that I'm still in a place where, I'm on my second, I'm on Ocrevus that I started, and this October will be the first full dose. I had the 2 small doses, and I haven't felt as strong as I did before on Tysabri. So this is, a waiting game to see if it's going to feel better, if I'm going to get my strength back, or how this is going to look. And I think that I know I've talked to several clients in our different countries that have just been so fearful, have not even got their medications.
Wow.
So we're talking months now, a year and a half, where
Wow.
no medication. So they've been finding different ways to try to fight it naturally. So some of them are finding that they've never felt better, which is interesting. And they've added just the food that they need to eat, movement, and taken out a lot of the stress. And they have felt stronger and better. And I know with you, we talked about you slowing down at work and kind of letting it slow so that you're not feeling that pull and push and that stress up to here. So would you say for more of our high functioning, like you and I, right, we still work full time, how would you say for them would be a good balance?
So, right. I think that, well, you mentioned the mindset those people are having. It's a change in mindset, right? So identifying those things that you need and making difficult choices. That's the hard part. Right. So sometimes we have to choose whether my health overall is more important than this action. So I changed jobs to get that. Right. It fell into my lap. I didn't necessarily want it. I wasn't looking for it, but it's been the best decision for me. I'm still doing good work, but at the same time, it's not 8 to 8 every day. Right. It's not going home and worrying about children every day and getting their schedules right. And, talking to this teacher and this and that. It's a little bit less stressful in that way. It's not a lot of immediate decisions. It's more long-term decisions and changes. So that has really helped me a lot. That I've found in talking to people is a very difficult choice to make, because like I went and got my doctorate. Like I'm ready, I'm driven, I'm going and I'm working, I'm accomplishing things, right? And so sky was the limit. But now I've taken a different look at what I need in my life, and that might not be where I need to go. So I've gotten I have gotten fulfillment out of some other things, right? Yeah. So the podcast has definitely been a big shift. And my dad was here yesterday, and he looked at me randomly. He said, the last few months, you are just a different person. Wow. Your stress level has been reduced, and you just seem like you have so much more joy. And I can't agree more with him. I'm less snappy at people. Yeah. I am less tired and fatigued and all of those things.
Up and everything. I love that.
Yeah. And it means a lot. Huge. Right. Yeah, it means a lot when my family. Yeah.
When your family can see it and encourage you and say, I see you less stressful. This is less. And it chokes me up, I think, because I've gone through this similar, where I gave up my gym in Berkeley, Michigan, and thought, I don't want to do this. I want to still train. I want to still have small classes, but I don't want to have a big class. I don't want to have 30 people in my class and look at them and say, good job. I have no idea what you did, but there was a fear in letting go of that. And, moving into a situation that I would stay smaller and more attention to you as a client and what you need rather than the big stuff. And it was very scary. And I feel a lot more peaceful now, but there's times where that fear kicks in. It's like, well, what if it doesn't work? And then what if you're not making, all those things, the what ifs, and you get fearful and you want to do everything. Because I think our personalities are a lot alike that, there's still so much I want to do and I don't want anything in my way. I just want to keep going. And I believe that through this last year, I pray and hope that it gave a lot of us time to sit and think, what does, I love the word that you use, what does bring me joy? What brings me joy? What brings me peace? And how can I balance this, still earn an income and balance this so that I'm not, the people that I love the most aren't getting, I would say the little bits in the paper bag of me. I used to say that as a mom when my kids were little, that I would be so busy that they were getting the crumbs in the bag. And so I often notice that if I don't learn balance, and that's a difficult one, I think, for a lot of us that are high functioning and want to get so much out, is that we can really get tricked into thinking that, we'll just hurry up and finish this without understanding the slow down and how much more effective we are when we take some slow down time.
Yeah, I just think it increases your longevity completely. And I know that I will be healthier for a longer period of time due to the decisions that I've made. So
Yes.
Tough decisions, but, I didn't know that all of those things had happened to you too. Yeah, it's really tough. And I see posts from people quite frequently. How do I know when I need to stop working? Right. Well, when you're not feeling good, right?
Right,
When you
exactly.
recognize, when you've done some self-reflection and recognize that it is impacting you in a negative way. And it might not mean
Right.
you have to completely give up everything. It just
Right.
might mean you need to go and work in a pet store instead, which you surround yourself with happiness all
Right.
day. I don't know
Exactly.
what that's like.
And I think that's great that you said that, Edie, because I think the balance can be twofold, right? You've met the autoimmune clients that will have this pity, like really fall into this pity. And I just forget, I'm just gonna be home. I'm not going to do anything anymore. When there's something they could do, absolutely, even if they're in bed. I have clients that will work out from their bed, and I'm just amazed and inspired by their tenacity to want to get better and stronger regardless. And I just feel like I could never complain a day in my life when I see that. But I do believe exactly with you that it is such a balance in that, and not going crazy to get up, get moving, and having to do so much, but in small, slow times, figuring out what does my body need? Because we know that we need movement. We know that we need to be healthier. We know that our schedules were bonkers before this. What would you say during this was your biggest joy throughout the last year and a half?
Well, getting Lily has been great. I got her a year and a month ago. So she's a little 5-pound Yorkie, and she just makes me happy. She makes my whole family happy.
Yeah.
My dad calls her his dog, which is ridiculous.
My kids think that my puppy is theirs. So
yeah. And so, she's sitting on the floor right now with me, and it's just great. And she's gotten me more active, and that's been wonderful too. So that probably in and of itself has brought me the most joy. But the podcast, for sure. Let me just tell you, I've been doing things the past year and a half that I've never done before. So I knew that I needed my bucket filled. So I went down to South Florida to a comedy show by myself.
Awesome.
Never done anything like that
Really?
before. Yep. And I was very cautious, with the COVID and all,
Yeah.
and the venue was amazing, but I did that. And I was so proud of myself. I told everybody that would listen, I went by myself, which
So
for a lot of,
was it a comic for like a person or just a show?
yeah. So, I'm in love with stand up, and Tom Segura is my favorite. I've seen him
Oh, okay.
a
I was
bunch
like, I
of
want to know if it's
times.
stand up or, because we're going to see Heather McMahon
Okay. Yeah.
pretty
Cool.
soon. She's
Fun,
coming here.
right?
I'm like, yes. I mean,
Yeah.
that for me, again, balance. I needed something that just took my mind off everything. And she's funny, she's crazy. And it's been just a very fun time during this to get off of all the MS stuff, because I'm influenced with all MS stories and MS and all the autoimmune stuff. And then just to hear some crazy, funny comic get up and do a podcast of just the craziest stuff. I think it's important what you said, like put some funny stuff in there. You went to Florida, you did something that was bold, and that was my word for the year is bold, be bold. So I love that you were just like, I'm gonna do this and it's gonna bring me joy. But what a nerve-wracking thing to do on your own with anything can happen, right? Because
Right.
that's a fear.
And I have anxieties, everybody's got all this business. So
Right.
yeah, it made me feel like such a brave person that I got over some things. And so that led me to, I just took a weekend at the beach by myself, and it was lovely just being there in the ocean, sitting there, and it's rejuvenating, right? So, but those are things that I hadn't done in the past, and getting over that fear again has just helped me to feel more confident.
Now, what gave you the idea to do that? Like, did someone tell you about it? Like, did you just decide I'm just going to go to Florida?
Well, I live in Florida.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And so, right. So it's driving. It's just
right.
a drive. But I like vacation, and I hadn't been on vacation for a long time. I went to see my family.
Right.
But I need that. Like going back. I know the things I need. I need to laugh. I need some downtime. I need water. I need the beach. I need love from humans.
Yes.
And so once I have those things, I'm up for a while, right?
Yes.
Sometimes when I'm not there, I need to go and replenish that bucket. So that's really what drove me to make those changes in my life. And I feel like I'm on such a journey right now.
Yeah.
Thanks to all of you guys, really.
Well, I see it. And I saw immediately, I was like, oh, I love her. I connect with you immediately. I thought, I definitely want to work. And I think that's a key too, is find those people that make you smile, that give you some information that helps you, but those people that you connect with. And sometimes I find it, especially in the autoimmune world, for that people pleasing, because we're in that mode all the time. And for them to say, no, I'm not doing this anymore, or no, I'm not working with this person, is a very difficult thing for some of us to do. So I think really, like we talked about, really looking at your life, saying, what is the big stressors that I've had now this time that the world has slowed down? What are the big stressors that I just am putting a line in the sand and saying, I'm not going back to this? I think it's really important as we continue to talk about balance and get back to our world, to understand what are the things, because it'll be very easy to fall back into what we did before without taking that time to really, what are those stressors that have taken so much away from us? And now I'm saying, no, not anymore. Not anymore. I'm putting myself first.
Hey, Kathy, I love what you just said. Yeah, it's hard putting yourself first. I never have ever done that. And it's a lot of work. To work on me is a lot of work. I'm a lot of work, okay? And not a little bit, a lot. So,
I get you.
Yeah. So I just think that it's the number one thing is to love yourself and know that you're worth the work.
Yes. Yes. So what do you say to those people who I can tell you all day, all night, I love you, God loves you, love yourself. And they can see nothing positive because they see no value in themselves anymore because of their autoimmune. You like that? I'm just testing you.
Yeah, so there's nothing I can say to change their mind or to give them any kind of comfort. It's just not going to happen. So I ask people a lot of questions, and I ask them, like you did, what brings you joy, right? What makes you happy?
Right.
And getting them through the questioning, getting them to recognize those things and them see the possibilities themselves helps them. Now, I'm no psychologist, trust me. But what I've learned is that I know that about myself.
Right.
In relationships, my friends are like, Edie, what are you doing? And I'm like, listen, nothing you can tell me right now is going to make me not like that guy. It's just not going to happen. So I need to figure that out on my own.
That's right, because you're single.
I am
single. So everybody listening, single.
So yeah. And I've also know my whole life, I'm not going to be fulfilled by another human. I need to do it for myself.
Yes.
And I think that until we feel that and know that about ourselves, we can't truly love another and support another person. So just being in that situation, knowing myself, that's how I would want people to talk to me. So, and it doesn't work for everybody, but that's my strategy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that's so good. I think what you said was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Love that.
Thanks, Kathy.
Sure.
Kathy, so you want to talk like this every day?
I think we should. I love it. I'm like, gosh, there's so many things we could go over, and the word balance, and then we go over like things to do. And I think you should come here and we should see a comedy. And I definitely, what brings joy, what makes you laugh, and then go do it. The baby steps, exactly what you said. It was a short-term win. But you did it. You went to Florida, you went to see the comedy, you wanted to laugh, you wanted joy. You didn't allow MS to stop you. You didn't allow whatever fear would try to creep up to stop you from doing that. And I think if we can set that, just the short-term goals, short-term joy, short-term things to get us there, then we'll start getting braver and braver and braver as we go. But I think, like you said, it is difficult to drop something and then start something brand new, especially when you're dealing, I believe, with an autoimmune disease or something like that, where you don't know the path it's going to take. So to start something new, there's this excitement that you have. And then there's this fear that wants to come in and say, but what if you can't finish it? What if you get started and it doesn't work? And I think we just have to shut that voice up. That's what I believe, because that voice comes to the sick and the well. That voice of you're not worthy. This is something you're not smart enough to do. That used to attack me a lot. I didn't finish with my schooling, with college, I had a child and tried to take him to Michigan with me. And they didn't allow that in the dorm room. So, but I think that it is, we have so much to offer. And I think that so much fear and can get in the way of that. And it really stops people that I've met through the last couple of years that I just look at and say, well, I'm interviewing you because there's so much you have to offer.
Oh, I love that too. I just think that no matter what, like, you got to focus on yourself. And that's not the fear, the anxiety is not exclusive to people with autoimmune diseases. Like you were saying, everybody goes through that. It's just caused by something else.
Exactly.
Right? And figuring out what that root cause of your fear and anxiety and anger is the most important thing, is working on you. Working on you.
Absolutely. I agree. I would say for me, kind of, off topic, a funny thing I do with my clients is I know that they're cognitively not there at all yet. So I'm like, I'm still good. We're good. We're still good. Because they don't even know what day of the week it is.
Oh no.
They don't. So it's like, okay, well, they have these high positions and they have no idea what's happening. So I think just cognitively everybody came down, and I think we are very inspiring because we can actually help them with, we dealt with this. We dealt with having to slow down. We've dealt with having cognitive issues. So allow us to be some help to you and how to do this.
Yes.
And I definitely was able to do my training and stuff differently outside, and just to really listen and say, it's okay, slow down and breathe. And I take time, I look up and say, okay, breathe. It's so just calm down, because there was a lot of stress then. So
good for you. That's great.
yeah. Well, I think that I sent some notes, and I want them at the bottom of the show notes. But I love doing this. I'd love to do some more with you. I loved getting onto a word or two and then just running with it. And as you're progressing with your podcast, definitely take a listen if you haven't. And thriving over surviving. And it is really good. And you've got I love the gentleness in which you are with the people that you're interviewing, and just a great job. So I'm excited that we can support each other through this. So yet another thing to give hope is start something new. I remember when I first started to want to exercise, I did the geriatric water aerobics, even though I was extremely young, and found it to be very fun with the older people. But I knew that movement had to happen. And if I couldn't overheat, which was the only thing they said back then what could I do? Now we've got, things that like Koldtec has, I've got all that stuff from them, and I, can do ambassador stuff and relief pack and stuff that keeps me cool when I want to do some stuff. But I think that that's a great step, is to think a little step, but where do I want to be? Look at where do I want to go? That's going to bring joy.
Yeah, I love that. I
love the way you're running the podcast. I think it's great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just starting, so I don't have all the experience that you do, but I'm trying. So I thank you so much for the feedback. And yeah, I just feel like that woman, Eve, that you referred to, she had not told more than 3 or 4 people her whole life that she had MS. So when people come on my show, I'm just very cognizant of that. They're sharing their story with the masses, and so that's got to involve some bravery, for sure, overcoming some fears. And I'm just so grateful for them to share that with me. That's such an honor. And a privilege. So yeah, Kathy, you'll have to come on my show.
I would love to come on your show. We'll do wonderful. One last thing I wanted to say, I have it on my notes and forgot to ask you. Do you feel that having the autoimmune disease and being single, for you, do you find that to be something that holds you back from going on a date, that you would have to explain that, or no?
So at first, yeah, it did. And I held it in. But now I know what it is, and I know my limitations, and I'd rather be upfront about it, because it's not a horrible thing for me. I know that I in the summertime, I'm not going to go eat outdoors. So I just am open about it. Listen, that's too hot, and I'm not doing that. And so with those limitations, it doesn't limit me in telling people and sharing that, because if I'm more confident about it in the way that I live, then they need to be comfortable with it too. And if they're not, then it's not a fit, right? I need someone that's going to be compassionate and loving, and I'll give that right back, for sure.
I love that you said that, because that shows right there, that's trust, and that's knowing that you're worth it. And we all are. So I think that if you're going to share that story, which is always a little bit terrifying. I remember sharing it with now my husband, but when we were dating, it was like, I have something. And I don't believe at the time he really knew much about it, but certainly knows so much now that he's completely in all parts of the MS stuff with me. But it can become this. I love that you said that. Like, if that person, if their reaction is, ooh, and they back, then why would you ever want to be with someone?
Yeah,
like
and I
that,
don't
so.
blame them. I don't blame them for that. Everyone should
Right.
know their limitations. They shouldn't take on more than they can handle or they're comfortable with, for sure. And
Right.
so that's just an individual decision, but I am not going to settle either for
Yeah.
that type of situation just to be with someone. And I am going to keep looking until that
Yeah.
guy comes along, because he's out there.
I love that.
He's
Maybe
out
that
there.
podcast will do it.
Maybe. Well, who knows?
Well, I wanted to ask you that and leave it on a positive note. And I can't wait to talk to you again and see what podcast you have. I'll be listening to. And well, it'd be you and I, this one. But love you, love what you're doing. Wish you the best. I know it's going to succeed. I know you've got a heart for it. You've got the voice, the excitement. So love it.
Thanks, Kathy. I just love you too.
You
I
bet.
appreciate you.
Can't wait to talk to you soon. You'll see a little bit of this on YouTube. So for now, our job is to come disrupt your idea of what this is, movement, and how we can help you. So enjoy the rest of your day. Laughs and smiles. Goodbye.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday, and also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Join us on that, and we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together.